the first thing? It looks like Vetius Valand, Andrea Gertz's translation, book 7. And book 8. Book 6. Book 9. These were the only items in the shipment that were actually new. And what's this? Oh, look. The New York Astrologer. This is June, July, August 1935. It's a very rare publication, second-hand in any issue really, but I personally find it fascinating. And what's this one? So what's this? Aha! Planets and People, the 1899 edition, in the same kind of binding as previous years. So this was obviously Frank Earl Ormsby's standard issue binding. Frank Earl Ormsby, famous for his Pyramid Cube University building, which unfortunately has now been lost. And this looks like it's volume 5, issues 1 to 3 there. It might have been a quarterly publication throughout this year, but I've tended to find that all except the second and third years of this are really rare. So it's got all 4 issues. You can see that's number 4. That's great. That's the whole year by the look of it. So that means I now have years 2, 3 and 5 of Planets and People. I wish I had numbers 1 and 4, but too bad. Can't have everything. Okay, this is an American annual called Your Future, and there are actually 3 issues of this. As you can see from the style, this looks like a Dell publishing company publication. I mean, the style of typography on the spines there. 1948, 1950, and an extra edition for 1941 with a mundane astrology theme. So what's next? Now this is part of a large quantity of Cycles magazine, Edward Dewey's magazine, quite early issues, and there are more of those just behind it. It was a big quantity. This one's actually dated on the front, February 1963, so there should be some research value, at least historical research value, in looking through those later. Now what's this? This is X-Raying Winners by Dr. Rao, an Indian astrologer. A very, very expensive book at auction. This sold for over $200, and this is actually the second edition. I think it's 500 copies only, and the first one I honestly don't know, probably was a similar size, but it was actually published in India, and Indian books of the mid-20th century don't tend to have very good survival rates, so it is quite rare second-hand. And that was on the horse racing theme as far as I remember. Let's move on to the next thing, and this is a spare copy to my collection, but actually in much better condition than the one I had before, of L. Edward Jondro's book, A Mathematical Analysis of the Astrological Evidences of War with Japan, published in 1911. And it's all neatly covered in protective plastic, which I don't mind, so I'll leave that on for now. And this is an old issue of Astrology Guide magazine. This one says March, April. You actually have to see inside with Astrology Guide for the year, because it was never printed on the covers in the early years, but it's quite a well-known publication of probably the 1940s. And this is the Shearhod System of Scientific Astrology, a really rare, mysterious pamphlet which for a long time was on the market for a much too high price of $300 and didn't sell for years and years and years. Eventually the bookseller slashed the price to a sensible $50 and actually accepted an offer of $36 for this. So that remains to be investigated further. this is a few issues of today's astrology magazine from probably the 1940s. Yes, you can see 1943 on that one on the front. That's more of a popular publication, not perhaps of the greatest collecting interest to serious astrologers, but it still has historical interest. There's an issue of World Astrology, one of the very first issues. I think this is from April 1937, and that was quite expensive, $30 on eBay at auction. It had been listed at a higher price, at fixed price on AbeBooks for some time before it didn't sell. And this is an early issue of Horoscope magazine, June 1940. All early issues of this magazine are interesting. Quite a lot of them have articles by Dana Rudyard, but not all of them. He went through a period of time of writing more for Horoscope than for American astrology in the 40s. Yes, that's the manuscript book I was expecting. Let's just kick this away a bit. So I'm opening this very carefully. As you can see, the binding is quite fragile looking. This is labelled Astral Influences, and there's a fascinating notice. You who now hold me in your hands before proceeding further, know that the knowledge contained in me will bring you neither fame nor fortune, and it is not taught in schools or in colleges. I am a sealed book to the majority of mankind, especially the educated ignorant, for there is no ignorance so impervious to reason as educated ignorance. If you are not in quest of truth and knowledge only, drop me, for I am not intended for you. I am a mine of occult jewels, but they are not on my cover. To find them you must search me, and so on. So this is the book which I am not aware of any source for. I think it may have been prepared completely by hand. However, it could turn out to be a handwritten copy of a published book. If so, I've yet to identify it. In any case, the very fact that it was typed out by hand, or written out by hand I should say, makes it a fascinating little piece of history. And this, I think, is the real gem of this shipment, and it's really awful to think that it very nearly was lost forever simply because of the incompetence of a shipping system. So I'm looking forward to sharing this more with the astrological community later. Looks like there's one last little book here. So what was this one? Let's have a look. Oh yes, it's Merlin's Great Love Oracle, or Future Destiny Foretold, a complete fortune teller. These little books by Merlin were published by Failsham, and they were widely advertised in Failsham publications such as Aldmore's Monthly Messenger. However, they have become very scarce second-hand, I think because they were regarded as somewhat ephemeral, throwaway publications, so not a lot have survived for the best part of a century. This is actually a later printing of this one from 1920, but I think an earlier printing was probably around in the 1890s. And this has a whole series of questions, so it looks like something of a gimmick similar to the various Raphael's oracular books that were published in the 19th century. And that's all, so I'm going to end this video now. Thank you for taking the time to witness the unveiling of the box that was almost lost to history.